One thing that I have learned over the weekend is that there is serious division going on in the gaming industry right now, and more specifically within the confines of Ubisoft Entertainment itself, as the employees are at war with each other, and yet they are unable to say anything because of an alleged authoritative level of toxic positivity. And that's something we're going to get into today, right after I reveal to you some shocking information gathered by Endymion through a source that he was in communication with. It appears that Ubisoft employees are anonymously sharing information with content creators because they haven't been on board with what Ubisoft has been trying to do with Assassin's Creed Shadows and any of their other games, but have not been able to come out and say something about it, which is why I'm going to be sharing this information with you all today. And I want to stress that if there are any game developers out there, anybody on the inside with very important information they want to share who aren't comfortable with the direction that gaming is taking or whatever studio they're a part of is taking, feel free to send me a DM. I'm on X, I'm on YouTube. Post a comment, let me know if there is anything you want to share with me, and I will get your story out there, because if there is anybody out there who cares about what's happening with the video game industry, I and other content creators out there have your backs. Overall, this is proving to be a very effective strategy, and I feel like the best pushback that these companies can get is from the employees themselves. At the end of the day, when an employee says, I don't like what's happening here, that speaks more volumes than it would if a content creator was to cross-reference a bunch of information to come to a conclusion themselves. That being said, let's read this story from that Park Place before we move on to Endymion's video and break down what he has found through the sources he's been in communication with. Rumor: Assassin's Creed Shadows originally featured male Japanese main character, and game could be delayed even further. So the allegation made by Ubisoft employees, as per Endymion's source, is that the main character of this game used to be Japanese. Most likely a Japanese male that would be the counterpart to Naoe, the female assassin in this game. They would have both been Japanese, and it appears that during development a lot of things changed, and not only did they change, but they changed to the horror of Ubisoft employees who did not even see it coming, which brings to light division within the company, miscommunications all across the board because some employees weren't even aware of these changes, and they were made last minute to support certain movements, which we're going to get into. So check this out. A new rumor for Assassin's Creed Shadows claims that the game originally featured a male Japanese main character, and that the game could be delayed even further after the game's developer Ubisoft recently delayed it to February 2025. So that's the date that we have, Valentine's Day specifically, and now insiders are saying that it may be delayed even further than that. So how far back are they going to push this thing? Now, realistically, they can't make a lot of changes that would pertain to removing Yasuke. I don't personally believe that that's something they can accomplish in a few months' time because of how integrated Yasuke is into the narrative of the game as well as the gameplay. It would be impossible at this point to remove him unless they really are that stupid, in which case it would actually explain a lot that has been going on with that company. But this would also explain Sweet Baby Inc.'s involvement with Ubisoft, as that company's logo has been plastered on their website ever since they first started cropping up on the internet. Starting to make sense now, because Sweet Baby Inc. has been known to do things like this. If you recall, there's a video game called South of Midnight, and they are doing the same thing behind the scenes. Anonymous employees came out and admitted to people on the internet that when these gaming consultancy agencies are hired to work on your game, they make fundamental changes to characters to fit a diversity, equity, and inclusion agenda. And if you recall what Sweet Baby Inc. has vowed to do, make white people look like the villains in the gaming industry and propel a DEI initiative into the stars. But it says that they delayed the game to February 2025, and it appears that that might be getting pushed back. It went on to announce the delay of Assassin's Creed Shadows and why it was doing so, because you remember they were going to polish the game. They had a few glitches they had to take care of. I guess Star Wars Outlaws sent them into complete panic mode. But here's where things get interesting. Now, a new rumor from YouTuber Endymion, who alleges to have spoken with a number of individuals at Ubisoft and who have worked with the company in the past, claims that the game could be delayed even further, and that the game originally featured a male Japanese protagonist instead of Yasuke. Now, if you take Endymion at his word, then there is a good chance that this is true, and Endymion has not been known to spread lies like this before. He's been right very often, and there's no real reason to doubt that his sources could be credible, especially since game developers in the past have admitted both publicly and anonymously that these things are going on, and that these gaming consultancy agencies and the powers that be within these companies are pushing diversity, equity, and inclusion with with an authoritative toxic positivity rod of iron, preventing their employees from talking badly about the game, which drives many of these employees to speak anonymously on the things they disagree with. And that's why content creators are getting such a huge leg up in the conversation. Endymion shared, "My source tells me that they heard February 2025 is simply a placeholder release date as of now, so it could be pushed back," as he says. Apparently this is because Ubisoft is scrambling and they need certain key talent in order to assist on a Q2 game release. Which, if you don't know what that means, there's 4 quarters to a calendar year, so Q2 means Ubisoft has something that they think will hit that is coming out later in the year that they need help on. Well, Ubisoft is in competition with a couple of other huge video games coming out. One of them is Monster Hunter Wilds, and the other is Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and those are both very popular games with a lot of seriously great potential. And it's funny because amidst all these allegations, one of them in particular states that Ubisoft is hoping they won't have any competition around Valentine's Day during Black History Month, ironically, and it's most likely because they don't have faith that Assassin's Creed Shadows is going to bring them profits. So that could be explained right there, but because of these other games that are way more popular right now and have certainly accumulated a far more positive reception than this game, it's not looking good for Assassin's Creed Shadows. So because talent at the studio is working to make that future release come out more smoothly, Shadows is not being given the extra hands it kind of needs right now. So like I said, the release date may actually be pushed back even further. And it also says that Endymion then revealed his source told him the game originally featured a Japanese male protagonist. And a lot of people were speculating on this for several months. It just wasn't really confirmed until right now if these rumors are to be true. I was told, he says, when they originally saw the game, there was indeed a male Japanese protagonist with their own finalized art and even animations. So they had already designed a Japanese male character. He was set to go. He had concept art, he had animations, they were set to go with this character. And all of a sudden, one day, they changed it. And the date in particular is something I'm seriously interested in and want to share with you all momentarily. But he goes on, they don't know if this character will be reintroduced to replace Yasuke, but they are skeptical that Ubisoft will actually remove Yasuke altogether due to the whole political, backlash they'll get from journalists and so on, he added. And I agree with that. I don't think that they're going to remove Yasuke from the game. Physically, it really is impossible to do unless they are the most retarded gaming company in the universe. Which, by the looks of things, that could be true, but I don't think they're stupid enough to remove Yasuke. Think about it. The backlash would be insane. They would get backlash from all sides. From one side saying that they're a bunch of cowards for not putting Yasuke in there, to the other side saying that they should have done it a long time ago and they're only doing it now because they've gotten backlash. So either way, this company loses no matter what they do at this point. But yes, the whole Paul Tassi thing, I never really thought in the first place that he was saying that a Ubisoft employee told him that Yasuke might be scrapped. I just don't believe that to be true, and neither do the Ubisoft employees that spoke to Endymion recently. But it does go on to say that he shared details about the game. Quote, they did say that the game's first act is heavily story-driven until it eventually opens up to your more traditional open-world Ubisoft experience, and that the big hurdle there, if they were to remove Yasuke, would be to practically change almost everything about Act 1, so to speak. So from a gameplay perspective as well, it just would be literally impossible. Yasuke is already interwoven into the very narrative of the game, and the gameplay is centered halfway around him and the other half around Naoe. At this point, if they were to remove him, it would break the video game, no doubt. So could they remove Yasuke with this already done but thrown aside Japanese character? It's a big maybe. Yes, they could implement a third Japanese male playable character later on, which would be really hilarious since I was joking about a Tom Cruise DLC coming out later in the month or something. I was joking about that, but it seems that Ubisoft feels if they add DLC after DLC, people will eventually forgive them, and I just don't believe that that would do them any favors. Now, of course, Endymion says to take these claims with a grain of salt, but he does say that his sources are solid. But my question is, what is it that influenced Yasuke in the first place? Whose idea was it, and what sparked this inspiration for them to change this male Japanese Japanese character into a historical figure and then try to make him gay. Well, it says right here, quote from the Ubisoft employee in question, the game did first include a male Japanese main character, but they were swapped sometime during 2020, according to my source. Now, do you all remember what happened in 2020? That's right, the summer of love. That's when Black Lives Matter were making waves across news outlets everywhere. Now, when asked why Ubisoft chose Yasuke over this male Japanese character, Endymion revealed that they said Ubisoft was heavily influenced by the socio-political events of the time with stuff like, and no, I'm not kidding, George Floyd dying, the riots, and Black Lives Matter exploding in support. Now, this would not come as a surprise to me or anybody who has actually been paying attention to what Ubisoft has been trying to do. They have been pushing diversity, equity, and inclusion all over their website, throughout their hiring practices, throughout previous titles that they've made. They are not trying to hide the fact that they are pushing an agenda, despite the fact that the CEO is in complete disconnect with that company mentally and saying that they're not trying to push an agenda. Either that or he's panicking because he's being found out and that the investors are getting close to pushing him out of the company if they gain enough support. Already at 10%, by the way. Kind of a big deal. But again, that would not be shocking to me. That's exactly what these people do. They pander to these crazy movements, and sometimes they do it out of fear. But in Ubisoft's case, they most likely, as Valiant Renegade says, believe in what they are doing and want 100% for all of these things to happen and don't care what gamers say. They don't care what gamers do. They don't care about the backlash. They don't care about the investigations or the investor proxy war. They're just like, push the agenda out 100%. Enough said. Hands down, done and done. Now, furthermore, he shared that his source informed him that Ubisoft was horrified by the response to Yasuke from the fandom, and they actually thought including him would be a really big selling point for the game. And as I said, they just believe in what they do. Not all of them are working out of fear or just doing what the big dogs tell them. Sometimes these people, and most specifically people from Ubisoft, as Sweet Baby Inc. is really just a branch off of Ubisoft with former employees building it from the ground up, is that they really think diversity, equity, and inclusion being pushed in this way, putting down white people to prop up other races as some kind of actual solution, they really believe in this stuff, and they're not willing to have a conversation about it. And that is why, in my opinion, these employees are coming out anonymously to speak to content creators, because in-house, while they're working on this game, they're not allowed to talk about it. Says they apparently believed by inserting Yasuke that they could garner and pander to the modern audience. Yeah, well, they decided that they were going to pander to the black audience for some reason. Most black people don't care about that stuff, and most people despised the Summer of Love and the BLM riots. But for some reason, these people feel that they are doing something here, that they're doing something special to push diversity, equity, and inclusion in a positive way. But what they're really doing is alienating their fan base, alienating their customer base, and now they're losing support both in their fan base as well as their investors themselves. They just don't support them. They're losing 10% or more. In a few weeks, there will probably be even more support, maybe 20 or 30%. You never know what's going to happen with this company because they are constantly dealing with controversy after controversy. Interestingly, one of Endymion's sources also provided him information on why Ubisoft decided to delay the game. He shared the thing that actually spooked Ubisoft more than anything else was how Japan reacted to the one-legged Torigate figurine. Now, there are a bunch of things that Ubisoft tried to push out as products that did not work at a fundamental level, and the Japanese people absolutely pushed back, and to this day they are still pushing back. Now, what I find to be really important to share is that Ubisoft to this day has not gone back to the drawing board on any of those products. They still continue to push those products out to these people. They don't say sorry. They only gave a half-baked apology on the marketing side of things, but they're not actually trying to make amends with these people, and we will find that out in a video by Mr. E, because if you watch his video, you'll see that he made a bunch of great points here, including responses from the people that Ubisoft wronged in Japan, including the Sekigahara rifle corps that Ubisoft stole a flag logo from. It says right here that on September 5th, we received a reply from Ubisoft. The general contents are as follows. It took time to confirm with the relevant parties, so the reply was late. The process of the art book policy cannot be made public. We reconsidered the measures to be taken for art books from outside Asia, but the shipping procedures have progressed and corrections or recalls are not possible. So that's all that Ubisoft does. They give half-baked apologies. We're so sorry that we did this and continue to do what we're apologizing for, but we hope that you will just somehow get over it, it magically, and there's nothing we can do about those art books. People have already bought them. We already worked so hard on them, and at the end of the day, what means more to us than the respect that Japan has for our company is money. Now, what's also really funny about this Mr. E video is at the end, he just says, Ubisoft, don't waste your time trying to fix Assassin's Creed Shadows because it's not going to help you in the long run. Listen to what he says here.
Ubisoft, seriously, just give up. Stop pretending like postponing is gonna fix everything. Either commit to making Shadows the game it could have been by respecting Japanese culture, or just accept the fact that this game is gonna flop. You can't just delay it and hope everybody's gonna forget the real issue.
Yes, and that's something that I think Ubisoft is trying to do. I feel like they're trying to stop people from talking about this, or they're trying to wait until things blow over, which would explain the delay among other reasons that have been provided here. Ubisoft is afraid. That's why they don't attend these events at the Tokyo Game Show, among other things. That's why they avoid the Japanese people at every single turn. That's why they refuse to communicate with people apart from AI-generated apologies that they post all over social media. They're not really willing to have a conversation with the people that they're trying to cater to, and that is one of the biggest reasons why they are in the position they are in. Which brings me to Endymion's video, where he does a nice little recap of everything that he learned. So listen to what he says here at the end of his video.
This is what I got for you so far. To reiterate, Yasuke was implemented solely due to identity politics. Black Lives Matter movements were an inspiration apparently for the character being included in the first place. He was not there originally. There was actually a fully completed Japanese male main character model somewhere in Ubisoft right now that they're not using.
So yeah, that still just blows my mind that they really have a finished Japanese male character that could be implemented into the game, but he's just sitting on a shelf while Yasuke is sucking up all of the attention.
And they want the industry to completely reject white men in every single way.
And that is something that one of the employees at Ubisoft also claimed, is that Ubisoft is on a crazy DEI mission. They hope not just to change people's perception of DEI in video games that they develop, but they're hoping to help spread the narrative of DEI throughout other video games and other studios in the gaming industry so that they can transform everything that we know and love into this twisted version of what gaming is supposed to be. A world of gaming where diversity, equity, and inclusion dominates story and characterization and gameplay. Where all of these nonsensical things are normalized and that hatred for white male gamers everywhere thrives into the future. Which really is insane if you think about it, but that should not be surprising, because think about all of the people that used to work for Ubisoft who are now trying to run their own gaming consultancy agencies or their own game studios in which they push this crap. It sounds nonsensical and it sounds crazy because it really is, but that's where these people's minds are. I mean, take a look at all of the things that they have been saying in response to the backlash from both the Japanese and people in the West. Listen to this.
Outlaws was believed to be Ubisoft's Red Dead Redemption franchise in terms of quality and sales, and they were so deluded they actually thought it was going to be that. There's thousands of incompetent people in positions just wasting salaries and ruining your favorite games on purpose. Disingenuous marketing tactics will be implemented in the future to ensure you buy their games, but the actual content of said games will not be changing in any way.
Yes, and that's probably the most important point of this video. Just because you don't see something woke in a video game or you don't see DEI directly does not mean it is not there. And that is especially true when it comes to marketing. These developers have the money and the power to push a DEI video game onto the masses without the masses knowing that anything is going on in the first place. They can trick you through teasers and trailers and screenshots and interviews. They can manipulate the perception that people have for a video game until it is too late, where you've purchased the game, you're playing it, and you're starting to notice all of these weird things in the game that just should not be there. But it's already too late and you've made your purchase, and not everybody will be willing to refund the game. And that is a tactic I feel that Sony and Ubisoft and other video game developers and publishers are trying to push out these days. The one thing that content creators, for example, look for in game trailers is any kind of sign that they're trying to push DEI, but they're not always going to see that, which drives investigators into doing their own research, cross-referencing information that they find in order to come to conclusions about this stuff. And I imagine that when these companies catch on to how quickly gamers are catching on to everything going on, they're going to double down and they're going to try even more deceitful ways to fool people. And I feel that that's exactly what they're going to try and do with this game in the coming months and future games that they develop, and other companies are going to do the same thing too. Regardless of what gamers say at the end of the day, they don't care what gamers say. They push back against gamers. They blame you, the gamers, for all all of their failures. They take zero accountability when it comes to anything that they get wrong in their video games. Ubisoft CEO blames gamers after poor sales of Star Wars Outlaws. This is the guy that investors of Ubisoft's company are trying to oust. They're trying to get him fired because of how incompetent and self-serving that he is. He's also a liar. He lies in public, which would probably explain a few of the drops that we've seen over the weekend and days prior on the Ubisoft share value. This guy is a liar. You might be hearing a lot about Ubisoft lately, and that isn't going to stop anytime soon. The company right now is a complete mess, and due to that, there is an internal investigation going on. The stocks are failing due to the recent failure of Star Wars Outlaws and the delay of Assassin's Creed Shadows. That said, the CEO, of course, has blamed gamers for the poor sales of its recent Star Wars titles. That's right, that makes perfect sense. Why didn't I think of that in the first place? If your game fails, blame and accuse and attack the very people you were trying to sell the game to. I mean, that's business 101. That's a solid proof plan. Why did I ever doubt Ubisoft? Why it matters? It was pretty much a given that Star Wars Outlaws wouldn't sell despite being a major game. And the CEO says that gamers have extraordinary expectations that are hard to meet now. So now we're just a bunch of snobby people who set expectations for these game developers way too high, and they just can't meet them anymore, which is why their development on their video games suck and why their games aren't selling anymore. It's us who have raised our standards to such insurmountable and unreachable heights that this game developer cannot keep up. But that can't be true. I mean, other developers are keeping up with our supposedly absurdly high expectations, and they're not even trying that hard. Hello, Space Marine 2, Black Myth Wukong, do those games ring a bell? Those were very successful titles, but of course, it's the gamers who are at fault. It's our expectations not being met that are at fault. It's not you. It's not the agenda you're trying to push. It's not your poor game development. It's not your last-minute decisions to cater to 2020 riots. No, it's all us. Also, Ubisoft delayed Assassin's Creed Shadows to polish it further as it wanted to meet the gamers' extraordinary expectations, yeah. And the CEO did say that they must strive for excellence in all aspects of their work. Well, apparently not according to the CEO, who says that excellence in their products cannot be met because the expectations are set way too high. It really disturbs me to see all of these people saying such nonsensical things. Are these people at Ubisoft, especially the CEO, not professionals? Do they just not look at anything outside of their little echo chamber, outside their little bubbles? It's practically embedded in their DNA. As you will see here, Sweet Baby Inc. employee admits goal is burning the games industry to the ground. Literally, you cannot make this up. Okay, this isn't that Park Place just insinuating that this person is saying it. It's not someone indirectly quoting what they're saying or paraphrasing. No, it is literally what they are saying. A Sweet Baby Inc. employee named Cameron Wild, who claims to be non-binary, admitted that his goal is burning the games industry to the ground. My goodness, the beautiful, amazing, brave, and stunning people that Kim Belair of Sweet Baby Inc. hires to push her anti-white agenda. It is insane how many of these people align with such a ridiculous belief system, but here we are in a presentation titled How to Get Away with Murder Subverting Genre Expectations at the Game Developers of Color Expo, and this was discovered by Kirsch. Wild introduces himself saying he is a narrative designer and sensitivity reader with a company called Sweet Baby Inc. It's important to note that these people have worked on Assassin's Creed, which is why some people are aligning what Sweet Baby Inc. has done with Ubisoft with what has happened with the Japanese male character in Assassin's Creed Shadows. Now again, this is not the first time that Sweet Baby Inc. has worked on a video game in which they changed the main character from white to black to shape a narrative. And it's funny because a lot of people criticize YouTubers for pointing these things out, for saying, well, they race swapped a character in this game. It's like, well, that's not enough for me. But it should be enough, because if you look at the intent behind all of these changes that Sweet Baby Inc. helps to make, you can see what they're trying to push. On their own website on Sweet Baby Inc., it says that this website was made, that this company was made to combat whiteness, to prop up other races at the expense of another race. And that race, unfortunately, is white people. They have explained how much they dislike white people, which is why it's so easy for people to swear off these games. When they see that Sweet Baby Inc. is attached to it, it's not hard to connect dots after that. It's healthy to be skeptical in this world, man. These people cannot be trusted to give you what you want. They cannot be trusted to keep your best interests in mind. And the people who are working on these games seem to hate gamers. They appear to hate video games. I mean, look at this PowerPoint and the bullet points on it. It says right here, cool, so why am I here? And listen to this bullet point. We want cooler stories. Oh, okay, that's great. A safer world. Oh, that's fantastic. And then what's the third one? Burning the games industry to the ground. What in the world did this person think that they were accomplishing by putting that as a bullet point? Wild explained a lot of us who are really fighting for more inclusive games and storytelling don't have a choice when it comes to discomfort. A lot of us who are just existing don't have a choice, which makes this really hard often. But recently I started realizing that discomfort, or the place where whiteness doesn't have to live, is where some of the best stories are told, and it's where genre storytelling lives. By the way, there is much more to go over here because this guy starts ranting about how much he hates Quentin Tarantino and wants to cancel him, and how Blazing Saddles was anti-white and that's why it's his favorite movie. These people are psychopaths in every sense of the word, and they show it gleefully. But people want us to support Sweet Baby Inc. They want us to support Ubisoft and Assassin's Creed Shadows when it's very clear that they have no respect for history and all they want to do is push social issues in their video games, and those things take priority over the gameplay, which is why Yasuke as a concept is fully established and he's ready to go, and the only thing that they're choosing to fix with these spare months that they have chosen to take for themselves is to polish the game, to fix some of the graphical issues, because that's not something that they could fix prior to release. They were way more focused on pushing a negative social ideology, and that is why they're in the position that they are in. But we also have to be careful not to put all of the blame on Sweet Baby Inc. While Sweet Baby Inc. is heavily responsible for a lot of the nonsense that we see in the gaming industry these days, you have to keep in mind that these companies, these studios and publishers also are pushing their own diversity, equity, and inclusion agendas, that while they align, they are their own entity. Assassin's Creed Shadows, Ubisoft hires LGBTQ+ activist as consultant who wants to challenge moral standards around transgenerational sex, and this cannot be confirmed to be because of Sweet Baby Inc. This is Ubisoft hiring this woman and having her work on their game. She's in-house, she's working with them. These are the types of people that they hire to work on their games. I'm not even going to get into what she studies because it has a lot to do with adolescent boys and monks in the Japanese feudal period, which is just insane to me that they even considered her for this position, but it should not surprise anybody anymore because it's being made clear over time that these people really believe in this stuff and they're willing to destroy their own company to get these customers to where they want them to be ideologically. But after all is said and done, how true is Endymion's claim? Well, at this moment, I don't see any reason not to believe it. Of course, it will be confirmed later on, but there's no question that these companies are doing things like this, and sometimes other studios do even worse things, and then they go on the attack against everyday players who question it or call it out. Now, in-house, there are employees who absolutely despise what their company is doing, and they're now speaking out against them anonymously, which means that there is validity to the claim that there is toxic positivity within game development on Assassin's Creed Shadows and other Ubisoft failed products like Star Wars Outlaws and Skull and Bones. The managers are saying, you can't talk about this, do not listen to any of the negative backlash, do everything our CEO says, push out this horrible video game, and just hope for the best, cross your fingers, and let's pray that this all blows over. And that is all I've got for you guys in this video today. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you haven't had the chance to like it and share it with your friends, that would be awesome. And hey, if you're feeling ultra spicy, consider subscribing to my channel so that you're always up to date on what kind of thing I've got going on. I look forward to seeing you all in the next one. Later. Meow meow.